Get started. So first of all, I did want to just share an acknowledgement of country. So whenever we do trainings, we always like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of Australia. So I just wanted to read this out to you real quickly. Sharing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, heritage and culture is a key part of Tourism Australia's focus. In doing so, we acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. And we pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders, past, present and emerging. So when you actually visit Australia, if you're participating in any kind of an Aboriginal event, there will be an acknowledgement or welcome to country. So the exciting news, Australia is open for fully vaccinated travellers. We opened at the end of February. And as of the 18th of April, you no longer need to show a negative COVID test. All that visitors need to do is do a rapid antigen test within 24 hours of arriving. So that can be one that they just pack in their suitcase and then they can do that on arrival. It's an honour system, so you don't need to report it anywhere. Obviously, if you do test positive, there are steps that you need to take to isolate, but it's much easier and very simple to enter Australia now. Visitors do still need an electronic travel authority or visa, and now the process is that they need to apply for that via an app on their smartphone, which you can download, and then also fill out a digital passenger declaration, which is basically like a COVID declaration. So they just do that online prior to travel. So it's a very simple process, and once you've arrived in Australia, there's really no other testing required. If you have clients who are traveling around Australia, doing some extensive travel, you might want to just check out a couple of those websites that you see on the screen, because some state borders might have different requirements, but generally speaking, there won't be any other requirements needed. Also, the exciting news is that cruise ships have now returned to Australia, and you will have seen that towards the end of this year, many of the major international cruise lines have added those itineraries back in, and we're basically ready to go. So it's all systems go. We're excited to welcome your clients and yourselves back to Australia. But first of all, I did want to just do a little bit of an introduction for you on our new marketing campaign, which is Don't Go Small, Go Australia. So we've heard from many of the advisors that clients are no longer putting Australia on hold. They're going and they're doing those bucket list trips, and now that they can travel again, people have, vacations stored up because they haven't been able to travel. Maybe they've got some additional travel money stored up, so they're going to go ahead and book those big trips. And of course, Australia is always one of those destinations that people always have on their bucket list to visit. So I just wanted to share a quick video that will introduce the Don't Go Small, Go Australia campaign.
G'day. Next time you holiday, why go small when you can go Australia? Peace and quiet, we've got a few spots. Cultural sites, ancient wonders, take your pick. You want fresh? Go catch your own. Icons, there's a few. You want more? Go jump in here, slide down there, swing it, ride it, eat it, drink it, meet it, move it. Or do nothing at all. Whatever you do, don't go small, go Australia. Come and say g'day.
So hopefully everybody's going to be calling you and they're going to want to come down to Australia. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the key reasons that clients would be interested in visiting Australia, and some of the main appeals or reasons that people do come down under. So first of all, don't go small, go make friends with the locals. So about 50 million years of geographic isolation has really blessed Australia with some of the world's most unique wildlife. So many of the different marsupials that we have, about 84% of all wildlife in Australia cannot be found anywhere else in the world, and about 50% of them are marsupials. And then don't go small, go immerse yourself in history you've never had. So the world's oldest living culture, the Australian Aboriginal culture dates back about 60,000 years, which is well before the pyramids, Stonehenge, and even the Roman Empire. So there are many ways to include these experiences in your clients' itineraries. And then don't go small, go hang out with our big green giants. So following the turbulence of 2020 and 2021, many travelers are prioritizing their personal well-being, whether that's by getting out into nature, spending quality time with loved ones, or just taking time out for themselves. And Australia has a range of experiences and destinations that allow visitors to really reconnect and rejuvenate. And then finally, don't go small, go lap up a change of scenery. So more than 85% of Australians live within 50 kilometres of the coast. So it really makes it an integral part of our laid back lifestyle. And did you know there's almost 12,000 beaches around the continent, and it would take you about 32 years to visit a different beach every day. So definitely lots of fantastic beaches to explore. So when we're talking about Australia, of course, there's some real icons that people always want to include, our major gateways of Sydney and Melbourne, the Great Barrier Reef that you can see there on the Queensland coast, and in the centre, Uluru, which is the same as my backdrop here, but that's the red centre of Australia, very rich in Indigenous culture and experiences. So we're going to talk about some of these different experiences as we go through the presentation. But one of the most challenging things, I guess, for people when they're planning a vacation is just the sheer size of Australia. It's about the same size as the US. So typically, an American traveler might have 2 to 3 weeks. So because we're such a huge continent, you probably will need to help them decide where to go. And generally, if somebody only has 2 weeks, I normally advise people to maybe pick 3 different areas and spend maybe 3 or 4 nights in each of those areas. So, often you will be flying between the different regions just because of the size of the continent. It's like somebody saying, I'm coming to the US and I want to see everything in 2 weeks. It's pretty hard to do that. So usually people have to sort of, really isolate those areas that are most interesting. And then, about 62% of people do go back to Australia again within 5 years. So once you've got them there once and they've done the research and seen how much there is to see and do, you're very likely to get a repeat booking out of that person again. So just want to point out where some of our capital cities are and where some of the destinations that your clients will be flying into. So we're made up of 6 states and 2 territories, and each of those states has a capital city. So there you can see Melbourne and Sydney are highlighted on the map. So those are the 2 main gateways for the US travelers. So there's non-stop flights into Melbourne and Sydney. And then there's a little island there, that's Tasmania, which is also part of Australia, and the capital there is Hobart. Then we've got in Western Australia, Perth. So Western Australia makes up about 1/3 of the continent, and Perth you can see is right down there in the southwest. Then we've got Canberra, which is the Australian Capital Territory. So Canberra is the same as our Washington, DC. It's where you'll find most of the nation's galleries, national monuments, our Parliament House. So that's about 3 hours from Sydney if you were going to drive. And then in Northern Territory, we've got Darwin, which is right on the north coast, very close to Southeast Asia. Adelaide is the capital of South Australia, big wine producing area down there. And then finally, we've got Brisbane, which is the capital of Queensland. So when we're talking about the best time to visit Australia, we really do have a temperate climate. So we have 4 seasons, but in many parts of the country, it's really only more like 2 seasons. So up above the Tropic of Capricorn, which is above that line that you see there where it says tropical, it's really just a wet and a dry season. So similar to, say, South Florida, it's always warm, but we get most of the rain up there in the summertime. So our summers are reversed reversed from here. So our summers are December through February and our winters are June, July, August. But if you were to go to that part of Australia in the winter, it's still going to be 75 to 80 degrees. It's actually the ideal time to visit that part of Australia. And then below that Tropic of Capricorn is a more of a temperate climate. So we do have 4 seasons, but the winters are nowhere near as severe as here. So even, you know, in the southern part of Australia, like Tasmania or Victoria, which is as far away from the equator as Australia gets, in the winter time, you're still looking at temperatures typically, you know, 45 to 55 degrees during the day. So it really is, you know, a temperate climate. So back to that question, when is the best time to go? It depends where you're going in Australia, but generally I would say to people, shoulder seasons are good. So like March, April, May, or say, you know, September, October, November. So spring and fall, pretty good, you know, good time to be anywhere in Australia. So we'll be talking a little bit about the signature experiences of Australia as well. And we did have a handout when you registered for the webinar, which has more information on these signature experiences. But basically, this is a way for you to include these really off the beaten path, bespoke type experiences into your clients' itineraries. They're all commissionable, and it just offers something very unique and different to an itinerary, something that your clients wouldn't necessarily know how to include on their own. And also, you know, if they've got a special interest, like seeing wildlife in its natural habitat, so you've got clients who like to do African safaris, they can see Australia's animals in their natural habitat by going out with one of these Australian Wildlife Journeys tour operators. We're going to talk some more about that as we go through the presentation, but I just wanted to highlight those out for you at the beginning. So we're going to start off with wildlife because it is such a major draw card for Australia. And so some of the key wildlife and birding experiences, one I wanted to just call out is to see the birds in the Kakadu National Park. So Kakadu is up by Darwin. Remember, up on the north coast, it's about a 3-hour drive from Darwin, and it's about a third of Australia's bird species live there. There's about 280 different species of birds. And there's also a lot of other wildlife to see, crocodiles in their natural habitat. It's also very rich in Aboriginal rock art. So you're going to see some fantastic ancient rock paintings when you're in the Kakadu National Park. It's a fantastic place for going for culture and wildlife experiences. And then many of the coastlines around Australia have whale migration routes. So this one in particular is on the south coast. So the Eyre Peninsula is where the southern right whales come to actually have their babies. And I think it's like every May that they come through there. So it's a great time to actually see those big whales and the little calves swimming alongside. Tasmanian devils are only found in the wild in Tasmania. They are actually a small carnivorous marsupial about the size of a small dog. So they do have a pouch. They're a scavenger. So they don't really attack, more they just, you know, eat other things that are out there cleaning up, so to speak. But they do have kind of a reputation for being very mean, but actually they're very timid and shy. They're quite hard to see in the wild because they are very shy, but they're definitely worth going to Tasmania to see the little devils. Penguins, so we have the little blue penguins down there just along the coast, along from Melbourne. So this is a really popular afternoon, evening tour where you can see the little penguins coming in out of the ocean every day. It's the largest penguin colony in Australia on Phillip Island. And then who doesn't want to cuddle a koala? You can do that all over the country. Queensland is a place where you can hold koalas, and some of the other states just let you pat koalas if you're in a wildlife sanctuary, but they're definitely something that most people want to see when they're in Australia. So how to organize this, how to include these experiences in your clients' itineraries. So the Australian Wildlife Journeys is a group of tour operators. They offer small group and privately guided touring where your clients can see these animals out in their natural habitat. They're really big into conservation. Your clients will get a really, personal experience. Here's just some of the different species that you'll get to see. Koalas, for example, are pretty hard to see in the wild because they're usually up pretty high in the trees. But if you're going out with one of these Wildlife Journeys tour operators, they can take you to areas where you're, guaranteed to see them, and they can tell you all about them. And then, of course, wombats, all these other different types of animals. They're really, these operators they do tours in many different states of Australia. So here's just a list of where they are located. And again, that flyer that was on the VAX website is also available for you to download that has more information. So just now talking a little bit more about our Aboriginal culture. As I said, it is 60,000 years old, and the culture is a verbal culture. So it's been passed down over the years just by storytelling and through dance and ceremony and music. So it's something that is alive. When you're in Australia, it's really adds so much to an itinerary if you can include one of these Indigenous experiences. And usually with having your own Aboriginal guide, you can learn firsthand about the culture and traditions of that particular area. So here's just an example. This is actually the Top Dig cultural experience up near Darwin in Katherine, where you can learn directly from Manuel about his specific type of artwork, which is called rock. It's like a cross-hatching type of painting. And then also, and so you can get to try that, and then also learn how to throw a spear and taste some bush tucker, which is where you go foraging, and they can teach you about different plants that are edible and that they use for different types of medicine, etc. Another one is right there in Sydney Harbour. So it doesn't have to be in the outback. All of these Aboriginal experiences are available in all different parts of Australia. So this is one, Dreamtime Southern Cross, that, as you can see, takes place right there on Sydney Harbour. And again, learning directly from the people of that area is different from learning from the people in the Northern Territory, where they have different traditions, different foods. It really, varies so much depending on what grows in that particular area, what kind of food source there was. So it's very, it does vary from place to place, and very easy to include these as, if your clients are traveling around. And then in Canberra, we've got the National Gallery of Australia that has the world's largest collection of more than 7,500 diverse works of Australian, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander art. So Canberra is about 3 hours from Sydney. It makes a great destination if you want to learn a little bit about contemporary culture, see some of the museums, maybe visit the Parliament House. If you're looking for an itinerary for families, I know some people had expressed interest in that. Canberra makes a great destination for families. A lot of those museums and attractions are free, and you can actually add a little bit of education into your family vacation. So the Discover Aboriginal experiences, again, is one of those signature experiences where you can organise to have an Aboriginal guide, take your clients out and teach them and show them the traditions of that particular area. So here's just some of the locations, different types of activities, whether it's more active, whether it's museums, whether it's culinary. So there's really something for everyone, and there's lots of them. All of these companies are Aboriginal owned or operated, and you can see from the map here, they're not just in outback areas. There's many, many to choose from. So onto our scenery. So we're renowned for natural beauty and incredible wildlife, but also a great culinary destination. So this is a place in Sydney. It's just along the coast from the downtown area we call the Central Business District. So you'll hear that CBD, which is like downtown. So along the coast a little bit is Bondi Beach, which is one of our most famous beaches. And there's this fun place to go called Icebergs Club, which has this fantastic swimming pool that's actually filled by seawater. It's open to the public, so it's a great place to just go and hang out with the locals, but it also has a fantastic restaurant and a bar, and you can just go and have lunch or coffee or an afternoon drink and just watch people swimming, or maybe go swimming yourself. So it's just one of the fun places to go and hang out in Sydney. All you would need to do is send in a copy of your certificate once you qualify to the email address, and to mention VAX, and you'll be entered into the drawing. But all the info is on that page, on the Australia destination page on the VAX website. So Aussie Specialist program's been going for about 30 years. It's super easy to qualify. As I said, it only takes about an hour and a half. You just go on to aussiespecialist.com and register. As I've said, people love Australia. It's always in the top 10 places to visit. You know, great opportunity to get another booking, because 62% of people go back within 5 years. Here's just a screenshot of the home page. So you've got information there on different destinations, itineraries, there's maps. So it's all right there in the one website. And then when you complete different modules, you get points, which you can redeem for travel benefits, giveaways, promotional items. You can order different brochures, maps, posters to send to your clients. We'll mail them to you free of charge. You can promote yourself as an Aussie specialist. So you can have the logo on your email signature, on your social media pages, promote yourself as an Aussie specialist so you can help your clients with their planning. And we do fam trips. So we're hoping our next one will be in a couple of years. We normally do them every other year. Obviously, we haven't done anything during COVID. So we bring down 100 agents from the US and Canada, Aussie specialists, on a fam trip of Australia. So now for the fun stuff. So we did have a little quiz. So if you want to go ahead and type in the Q&A box the answer to the question, we're going to have the first two winners to get this correct. So what is the name of Tourism Australia's new marketing campaign? So Beth is going to look through your answers and let me know who the two winners are. And then we're going to go ahead and contact you and get your mailing information. And yes, if there are any questions, we're more than happy to help you. My contact information is on the screen, but we also have other staff available. The easiest way to reach us is probably via the hotline at tourism.australia.com email that you see there. Of course, you can always email me directly. So thanks very much. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And Beth, if you want to let me know who the top two winners are, we can get that organized.